Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Eric J. Morin, welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you back. Today what I want to talk about is this idea that the worst thing a small, and I wrote this down in my note before I started this podcast, which is the worst thing a small, and I want you to write this down. If you're driving, please don't. But if you have the ability to write it down, please do. And I want you to post it somewhere. Post it on a mirror, post it in your office, post it somewhere you can see it all the time. And this is what I want you to write down. The worst thing a small business can do is to think like a small business. The worst thing that a small business can do is to think like a small business. And the reason I tell you that is because when I see businesses that struggle, when I see businesses that don't actually break through their organizational ceiling, I think this idea of getting through the organizational ceiling, I think you got to keep listening to me on that concept, because I'm going to teach you how to make massive moves, and I'm going to continue to teach you how to make massive moves. But I want you to hear something. Is this idea that Dan Sullivan once talked about this idea. He said, it's easier to grow 10 times than 2 times. And I remember listening to that and thinking to myself, that's so true. It's easier to grow 10 times than 2 times. And it is, when you think about this idea of 10 times versus 2 times, it's this idea of, by the way, what do I mean by that? Okay, let's assume that you were $1 million dental practice. And you wanted to be a $2 million dental practice. So you thought to yourself, well, I'm going to go be a $2 million practice. You probably wouldn't need to do that much more. You'd have to open up some capacity. Maybe if you're working an 8 to 5, you need to kind of open up the hours some. You need to, maybe you hire an associate part-time. As long as the owner dentist is producing at a good level, it's pretty easy to get to 2 million. A dental practice to go from 1 million to 2 million is relatively easy, even though some of you listening to this might not think so. If you don't, then you need to reach out and I'll help you do that. But it's really not hard to go from 1 million to 2 million. It's relatively easy. It's like I would say, like the first million of anything is the hardest. Once you get to 1 million, it's pretty easy to get to 2 million. It's actually relatively easy in a dental practice to get to 1 million. So, but if I wanted to get to 10 million, okay, now do I have to have a different mindset? Do I have to have a different belief? Would I have to talk to different people? Would I have to have a different conversation? Probably couldn't come to work hungover. Probably need to be sharp, right? Probably need to talk to people who know, who have capital or know people where to get capital, or bankers who can give you access to capital. You'd probably need an operations officer. I'm not talking about some, person who is an admin who has no business background and has been promoted through the ranks, but I'm talking about a person who really understands acquisition and mergers and understands numbers and KPIs. And we'd have to think, like, if we started thinking that way. So if I instantly told you that you needed to be a $10 million dental practice by the end of a 24-month period, or a 36-month, or whatever goal you want to give yourself. Give yourself 5 years. I don't care if you give yourself 10 years. But if I gave you that goal, this is why vision is so powerful. If I gave you that goal, and I said your goal is to become, by the way, if you don't do this, you lose everything you have, every asset, you lose access to whatever you want, right? Whatever extreme, right? Whatever gets you there mentally, in setting this goal. And if I said you want to be a 10 million, by the way, if you don't want to be a $10 million practice, I don't know why the idea is strive to make this thing as most successful as possible, because if you do, you can impact as many people as possible. But if I was doing that, one of the reasons why people don't ever do anything of great abundance is because they have these, I hate to be blunt, but they have shitty goals. And so they get a shitty result. And I say that because going from $1 million to 2 million doesn't really change your lifestyle a whole lot. It doesn't change the people around you's lifestyle. It can't really impact that many people. It really isn't all that different. Now 10 million, that's a whole nother thing. And so we look at this and say, okay, so some of this has to be mindset. So when you think about a small business, thinking like a small business, at $1 million, you're pretty content. Maybe $1 million, $1.4 million, because you're like, I'm just a small business. I have an office manager. I've got 2 assistants. I've got, and you just think like a small business. Versus if I said your goal was to become a $1 billion dental corporation, by the way, that's been achieved. We know that. What would you think different? So if I said you're going to become a $10 million dental practice, and I said to you, don't think about it, quickly, what are the moves you have to make right now? Don't think about it, just boom. Like if I just challenge you right now, what do you have to do right now? Boom. And I want you to do that exercise, like right now. Don't think, don't contemplate on it, just right now. What do I have to do? Like the answer will come to you instantly. Like you know what you have to do to become a $10 million dental practice. You're probably just not doing it. Now, it might take more action. It might take more focus. It might take more influence. It might mean connecting with people of abundance. It might be getting away from the doctors that have scarcity mindsets and have held you back for so many years. It's interesting. We tell our kids, be careful who you hang out with, right? It's one of the first things we tell kids is like, make sure you're around people that, that are going to impact your life positively. Yet as we become professionals, we drop that filter, that same filter we drop. And we think, well, they're doctors, so they're good to hang out with. Not true. Not true. There's so many doctors you should not be spending time with, and I'm dead serious on this. I will tell you, for an individual who's worked with doctors for the last 2 decades, there's a good portion of them you shouldn't spend any time with. And I'll go on the record and say that, because just because they're doctors does not mean they're good for your business, good for your mental state, good for your growth, good for your abundance, good for impact. There's a lot of negative doctors out there doing small-minded things. Now, I hope the fact that you're listening to this podcast means you're not one of them, right? Don't think like a small business. Why? This world was you're meant to do amazing things. I believe that. I believe that's part of human nature, is that we were built to do freaking awesome things in this world. Someone asked me one day, they said, what do you want, Eric? What do you want? I remember saying, I want to swing for the fences. I want to swing for the fences. When I leave this world, I want to know that I left nothing off the table, that I went for it, that I went all in, that I did everything possible, right? Same thing we tell our kids. I want to know that I did everything possible. I damn sure don't want to settle. I don't want to go back to my grandkids and say, well, at least I settled. I want to know that I gave it my all. I want to know that I committed, because look, you've been through challenges to become a doctor. You've been through, anyone who decided to be a business owner. By the way, it takes a special type of person to be a business owner, because that brings in all kinds of other challenges, as you already know. But the concern is, if I get bigger, it'll be more stressful. That's not true. It's not true at all. And in fact, the bigger you get, the more you have scalability, the more you can hire talented, awesome people who can help you deal with all these problems of running a dental practice. You can hire HR, you can hire training, you have an awesome leadership and a head of every department. You can do all kinds of things, and all of a sudden one day you actually get the life you want to have, which is to be able to pull back from the dental chair, to have autonomy of time and autonomy of money, and to have those things. But you'll never get there if you think like a small business. You won't get there if you listen to your financial advisor who's telling you to put all your money inside of a damn 401k and put it into these retirement vehicles instead of investing in an asset getting 30, 40, 50%. You won't get it. I don't mean to drop some expletives here, but I get a little fired up talking about this stuff, because look, this is where it's at. Like my message to you is to have a life of abundance, to be compelling, to live a life that you deserve, and your kids deserve, and your family deserves, and you deserve. It's not by settling. And that's the saddest thing is to see people at the end of their life who settled their whole life. Not you. Don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. You got to think about this and say, like, what do you have to lose? I would go all in, and I would encourage you to get there. The first thing you got to control is your mindset. And that's why I said you got to take the first action. Like, if I told you to write down the worst mistake you can make for a small business owner to make is to think like a small business owner, and you didn't even do that, well, we don't have a chance, do we? I couldn't even get you to write something on a piece of paper. What chance do we have? Make sense? I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm just trying to say, look, it's a piece of paper. Put it somewhere you can think about it. Use it as your mantra. Whatever you got to do to get you psyched up. Jump up and down. Do some jumping jacks every morning. Put it on a big wall. I don't care if you get a big laminate, symbol and put it on your wall. Whatever you got to do to remind yourself that it's easier to grow 10 times than 2 times, because when you get that momentum and that energy and that power and you get people around you. Look, people like me want to work with people who want to go 10 times, not 2 times. I want to be working with people who have massive amounts of energy and abundance, and they want to create a life of impact and significance. That's who I get fired up by, not the person who's worried about their front desk person. Small business owner is worried about that he or she is afraid to let somebody go who's not performing. That's a small business owner. Allow them to succeed somewhere else, because they're not succeeding with you. You're just holding them back. I bring that example up because I hear it all the time. And it's one of the most small business things you can do, is to hold people back from being successful. If you're trying to grow 10 times, you don't have time for that. You're going to be focused on the things that grow and impact the people who want it the most and who want to help you get there. I'm calling this, by the way, at Tower Leadership, I'm calling this the summer of abundance. And we're going to spend, by the way, on my Tower University. If you don't have access to my Tower University, you're completely missing out. One of the things I'm doing right now is I'm creating this awesome series this summer called Summer of Abundance. And I'm giving away, by the way, my whole Tower University platform. I'm opening up to any doctor this summer who wants to be part of it for 2 weeks. Absolutely no cost, complimentary. Get in there, start learning, start getting abundance mindset, start thinking. Literally, all you got to do is reach out to Tower Leadership, and literally we'll get you signed up. Because on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to release a series this summer called Summer of Abundance. And this series is going to fundamentally change the way you see your life, your business, your wealth, and everything else. Because this is a time when everybody else is, I'm telling you, even though we're opened up, people are going to be scared. They're going to be full of fear. They're not going to take action. And now's the time, if you have an abundance mindset, to transform your life and grow 10 times instead of 2 times. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm talking about in every way possible in your life. I want you to let that sit with you. And some of you that said, oh yeah, that's great. Some of you are like, I don't think I could do that. Look, it's okay, right? We're all at different places, but you got to take the first step, right? The first step to get there. And, whether it's reaching out to us and letting you look, I can't, it's interesting. Like I could give, like I just said that Tower University, some of you are afraid to even reach out and make a phone call, right? Free material to help you change your life, transform your life, impact people. And many people won't even do that. Right? It's a simple thing to do. What an opportunity. See, I'm not money driven, I'm purpose driven. I want to change people's lives. That's why I would do something like that. I want to change your life. Greatest joy I get is watching a doctor transform their life and transform their practice and transform their team and transform their outreach and everything else they're doing. That's what I love to do. That's what I get passionate about. This is the summer of abundance. Grow 10 times. I encourage you this summer, make the move this summer. It's going to be awesome, guys. Hey, write that down. Make sure you put that the worst mistake a small business can make is to think like a small business. I want you to do that. If you need access to Tower University, a lot of you are on it, then you need to reach out. Let me give you access to it complimentary and get you taken care of. Awesome, right? Hey guys, thank you for being here. Share the message. I want you to not just listen to this for yourself, but I want you to have conversation with friends that are doctors and say, hey, the worst thing we could do, let's talk about this together. how could I think differently, and how can I think more abundantly? Or reach out to Tower Leadership and say, what do you mean by that? And let's talk through it together. Let's have a conversation. Don't have a scarcity mindset. It's abundant. It's the summer of abundance. You're not allowed to have a scarcity mindset. So reach out. Hope you've enjoyed. Hey, share, like, subscribe. Make sure you're tuned in. You don't want to miss an episode. We're going to help you grow and have that life of abundance every single week. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.